recording of the screen, and then we will start up with the PowerPoint slides. Share. Okay. Command enter. Command enter. Okay. Escape. Sorry. Okay. Okay, all of you can hear me, right? Okay, today we're going to start off with our second part of the lesson of the League of Nations. And I told you all before the lesson itself, I want all of you to go online. And what I wanted you to do is to read up and actually do the task that you're supposed to do for today's lesson. I hope you have already done so. Okay, because I may not be able to do the interactive time that we're talking about. So this is what's going to happen. Okay, for today's lesson, okay, first of all, I already sent the worksheet to your WhatsApp group. You may want to copy the notes on the WhatsApp group, the notes that is found on the PowerPoint slide. Jot down the things I shared or I emphasize when I'm sharing with all of you. Or you can actually download the worksheet and then you copy the notes. Just focus on what was written in the worksheet. If you want to pay attention to the things, I will upload this lesson video later. At the end of the lesson, I will tell you where to actually retrieve it. It should be found in your Google Classroom. I'll put a link there. And I will also send you the link via WhatsApp. For those of you who have not signed up for the Google Classroom, I'm not going to, in the next few lessons, I'm not going to do double work again. Okay, I remind all of you, I don't want to do double work again. Whatever that I said during class, whatever I said during the lessons of PowerPoint or the worksheet will all be found on Google Classroom and SLS. The follow-up will all be found on Google Classroom. So if you're not signing up for Google Classroom, then you will not be able to retrieve the necessary information. I'm not going to put it on WhatsApp anymore. Okay, so first of all, you can download the PowerPoint PDF. You can jot down the things I shared. One of the apps that I find it very, very useful and it's a free app is called PDF Element. You can use that to edit it on your iOS or your Android devices, or you can actually download it and then you can actually do annotation on your computer screen. Okay, so if not, then you can follow the worksheet and then you can look at the video later to jot down the key point. Okay, let me just very quickly bring you through what we have done in the previous lesson and the lesson before that. Now, so far, what we have learned in our lesson is that we have understand this formation of the League of Nations. Now, the League of Nations is one of the byproduct of the Paris Peace Conference, something that we've been learning online on the SLS in the past few lessons. Now, when the Paris Peace Conference was created, they have many different things that they wanted to do. One of them was the League of Nations. They wanted an organization to look after the world so that there will not be any further war. So that was the intention of the League of Nations. And it was the brainchild of President Wilson. President Wilson, who is the US president at that point of time, was one of the big four who attended the LON. They attended the Paris Peace Conference. So during the discussion itself, they were very concerned. They were very, very concerned about what is going to happen to the world. They do not want a world after the First World War when everything is all haywire again. They want a world that is stable. And that was why they created this organization called the League of Nations. So last lesson, online, during our live Zoom lesson, I mentioned to you what was the reason for the formation. And I did not teach you and I did not tell you especially all the reason in point form. But what we have done was that we actually look at the covenant. Okay, we look at the covenant. And what is this covenant that we're talking about? That means what was the aim of the League of Nations. And from the aim of the League of Nations, we understand what exactly were the reason for its formation. And we have highlighted a couple of key things from the covenant. One, the League of Nations was aimed to be a peacekeeping organization. To be a peacekeeping organization, they need to decrease the amount of armament, because the more armed the countries are, the likelihood of them going into war or using war or violence as a form of solving problems in the world will become easier. So they want to cut down on armament. The next thing was that they wanted to have an organization where it is something like a court of justice in the world, where when countries can come in and do arbitration, they can discuss about matters instead of resorting to war. They also want the League of Nations to be an organization to keep track of all the treaties. because with all those secret treaties that was going on, and that was exactly why the First World War became a world war in the first place, because many countries have secret alliances with one another because they're different treaties. And the League of Nations served to address that by creating a higher level of transparency in the world situation. So that was why the League of Nations was formed. Now, the League of Nations was also formed to help countries, okay, to try to gain self-determination. That means to help these so-called countries that have been colonized to get their freedom in order to rule on their own. That was why some of the colonies that were taken over from Germany was later placed under the League of Nations, and the League of Nations' job was to perform this thing called trusteeship. Trusteship. So trusteeship was to make sure that the League of Nations can look after this state and get them ready to be independent. So that was the other role of the League of Nations. And the final thing that we're talking about the League of Nations was that social economic role. They believe that if they make the world a better place, meaning the people's life get better, helping in terms of, for example, helping countries in terms of welfare, helping countries in terms of healthcare. Okay, all these things will help to make the world a better world, a more so-called a world that is economically better. And by doing this type of collaboration, it hopes that all the country will get uplifting. And if the countries are doing well, there's lesser likelihood of country fighting war. And therefore, it will ultimately resolve peace. Now, if you remember the article of the covenants that we were doing, this was pretty much the gist of the lesson that we have previously. So now that we understand why the League of Nations was formed through the objectives and aim, then what are we going to study today? Today, we're going to focus, I'm going to just give a kickstart on this lesson on what we call the weaknesses of the LON. Okay, and all of you already have the worksheet with you. So I ask all of you to take a look at this situation. Okay, there were two views that was given to you. Okay, there were two views that was given to you. One of them was by American and the other one was by a Belgium. Okay, now in both views, if you have answered the question, you will notice that both viewpoints are very, very different. Okay, now what I want you to do very quickly to jot it down on your worksheet. Now what I want you to do is, what do you think is the viewpoint of the American? Meaning, how do the American view the LOM? What is their perspective of the LOM? Remember, the focus is not on the content. It is from the content I want you to see what is it that the Americans were feeling. Okay, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to very quickly look through content and then ask yourself, what are the things what is the viewpoint of the American? Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, Jasper, I'm going to unmute you. Okay, we're going to do some form of sharing. Jasper, can you share with me? Okay. Oh, sorry, I don't think I can unmute you. Okay, my apologies. I don't think I can unmute you. Okay, that makes it easier for you to. Okay, yeah, I can. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, where is Jasper? Okay, Jasper, I've unmuted you already, right? Can you tell me what do you think is the viewpoint of the American? How does he view? What is his perspective about the LON? How does he feel about the LON?
He views it as like a negative thing.
Okay, he views it as a negative thing. Are you focusing on content or focusing on his viewpoint? Viewpoint means about how he feels, right? How he feels. So what is his feeling? He feels that, or what is his, you mentioned he says that the League of Nations is a negative thing. What is his feeling? What is his viewpoint? Focus on focus on the person rather than the content. So what does he view? How does he view? What is his viewpoint about the LON?
Uh,
He is, just now you mentioned something about the LN, right? He is what about the LN?
Negative.
He is against, is negative. Very good. Now, understand now, when we talk about perspective, okay, the class, I hope you are jotting down the point. Thanks, Jasper. The point that Jasper mentioned is that the League of Nations is, the American is negative. The Americans is negative towards the League of Nations. And how do you know that he's negative? Because he uses many terms. Like, for example, he says that the League of Nations is a foolish organization. And then he uses a lot of strategies. If you look carefully at the point there, do you notice that he seems to be asking a lot of questions? Do you notice that he asks a lot of questions? But do those questions requires an answer? Guys, do you think it requires an answer? It doesn't require answer because the answer is actually self-explanatory. So we call this type of question rhetorical question. Okay, I repeat again. This type of questions are called rhetorical question. Okay, rhetorical, rhetorical question. Rhetorical questions are questions that do not require an answer. There is already a answer to the question itself. It is asking for the sake of creating an emphasis. So you notice that the choice of word he used, like things like foolish, like things like you will die, okay? And then he uses rhetorical questions like this. Is an indication that this American citizen is actually very negative or he is against the LON. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so this is how you get to understand this idea about perspective. Perspective focus on the person, not on the content. Through the delivery of the content, you get an understanding of what is the perspective of this person. Okay, now that you have a rough idea about what this American citizen is, he's negative, let's look at the Belgium citizen. Okay, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Okay, and I'm going to get Elisa to answer. Okay, that means that the rest of you can look through the answers and see whether your answers are similar to Elisa. Okay, Elisa, I want you to look at source B now. Okay, the Belgium citizen, and I want you to tell me what is the viewpoint, or what is the perspective of this Belgium citizen.
The Belgian citizen supports the LON.
Okay, how do you know that?
Because
so he's supportive, right? He's supportive of the
yeah,
LON. Okay, he's supportive. Now I noticed that you use the word supportive, but the word support, if you can see from my arrow pointing here on the screen's capture, the word support has been used. So you cannot use the word support as your perspective. So can you think about something else? So the Belgium citizen is what? Elisa? The Belgium citizen is? You cannot use the word support anymore. Think of another way of showing the viewpoint of this Belgium citizen. What would be another word? So the Belgium citizen is the American is negative. So this Belgium citizen is
positive.
Positive. Good. That's one way of saying that. Or you can say that he is actually in favor of the LON. Okay, in favor of the LON. Okay, what are the things that he highlight that shows that he is in favor?
He says that the objectives are reasonable.
Okay, they are reasonable. Actually, very good. What other thing? What other thing that shows that he's very positive? Huh?
Ensuring that all human beings have decent standards.
Okay, so I'm sure that and ensuring all humans. So he talks about the objective of all what the LON is saying. But you notice that this fella is very, very positive because of the way that he phrases his answer. Okay, you're right to pick that all out, but also focus on the way that he started. He is very assertive. Do you realize he's very, very assertive? He says all these things. He say I
Believe.
I believe, and I am.
Sure.
Yes, that two statement is a very clear understanding of what we call that very assertiveness. Okay, thanks, Elisa. Okay, you can mute yourself already. Okay, very good. So I hope that you'll get the idea. So in this two perspective, you see very clear perspective that both of them are actually looking at things in a very different manner. One of them is not very positive. He's very negative about the LON. The Americans are. The Belgium himself seem to be more positive. The European countries seem to be more positive. And I want you to take note of this very interesting thing because the American citizen, their response towards the LON is going to have a huge implication on how the American sees himself in supporting the LON, or in this case, not supporting the LON. Okay, so take note of this. Now let's move on to the next one. Okay, let's move on to the next info. Okay, now so let's look at this second one. Okay, the League of Nations. Okay, now I'm going to very quickly bring you through the sources. The League of Nations has its root. So this is source A. Okay, and I've already highlighted some of the key things for you to take note of. So what are the key things that you need to take note of? First of all, the League of Nations has its roots in its popular support. So what is the League of Nations? What did the League of Nations stand in the mind of the people? It is a symbol of hope. It's a promise of good fortune. Okay, and if you look at the next few lines, the League stand for all this information that is mentioned over here. It stands for disarmament, for peace, for international justice, for protection of backward people, for better standard of living, for the relief of suffering, for the fighting against diseases, to to work for the mankind, the good of the mankind, for better world policy. All these things are clear evidence of that lofty ambition that the LON had actually had. So what you can see in this source is that the league represents something like a hope for a better future for the people. So there are people who are like this man, like Fosdick. He is very positive. He is very positive, and he is very hopeful that the LON will be able to perform its role and to do well in the situation. So you notice that this source talks about the idea of that aspiration that the people were having. Okay, now if you look at the second source now, okay, if you turn your attention now to the second source, okay, I'm going to move on to the second source now. If you turn your attention to the second source, source B have something in common. Okay, source B has something in common with source A. Okay, although it was very clear in source B that source B is actually very negative towards the LON, but there is something common about them. And what I want you to do, okay, let me see who I should ask. Okay, Braden, okay, can you tell me what was something common about source A and source B? What do you think was something common? They are definitely saying different things. They have different viewpoint. But what is something that they are saying that is similar? Is there anything that they say that is similar that you can see that they mention it in source A, they also mention it in source B?
The negativity.
Sorry?
The negativity.
The negativity? Let's look at source A. Did it mention about the negativity? Okay. Did it mention about the negativity?
The horror of the war.
Okay, he mentioned about, but that was not what the League of Nations was about, right? It is about what the whole entire thing is going on. Okay, it's talking about what the things are going on. Now my question to you is, okay, if you look at source A, okay, and you see the things that I've highlighted over here, then you look at this one over here, okay, you look at this one over here. In these two passages that was being highlighted, there was actually something that is common in both source A and B. What was it that is in common with source A and B? The what?
The big aims, big dreams.
Very good. The big aim. The aims were similar. That means that both of them acknowledge that the LON is supposed to do certain things, to stop war, to make the world a better place. Okay, of course, source B is shorter. They actually summarize everything. Very good. Thanks, Braden. So if you look at this situation, both sources are both highlighting the aim. But what was interesting was that in source A, they truly believe that the aim was a good one. It is something achievable, it's something that is good, there's something that can be done. Okay, there's something that can be done, and it will make the world a better place. Okay, so that's why people are supporting them. They need to understand the league, they need to support the league. But however, if you look at source B, this fella is obviously very negative about the LON. And who is he blaming? What is he blaming about the LON? Okay, what is he blaming about the LON? Felice, what do you think? What is it that is blaming about the LON?
That is like no use.
Yeah, he says it's no use. Very good. It's useless. And what type of impression does it give you about the fact that it's useless, is no use, that it is not working? Who is he blaming, or what is he blaming? Who is he blaming, or what is he blaming?
The league.
Yeah, what is he blaming about the league?
Not working.
Yeah, he blames that the league is not working, but why is it that the league is not working? Why is it that the league was not working? Who did he blame for the league not working, or what did he blame that make the league not work?
The Wilson.
Okay, Wilson. Who do you think this Wilson is? Who is this Wilson?
Like someone.
Okay, who is that someone? Who was that someone? Who is this someone they're talking about?
Like someone that is like head of the league or something.
Okay. President Wilson, President of the United States, which I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson, he was the one who created this idea. He wanted to form the LON. And he says that this fella has heads in the cloud. He's very high, he's actually very high-minded. So what does this tell you when you say of somebody with the heads in the cloud? It means what? What is that? What does the term heads in the cloud mean?
Thinks too highly.
Yeah, think too highly. That means that he doesn't see things as his head is right above. He's not down to earth. So means he's very airy fairy in that sense. So his head is very in the ground, in the air. Okay. And the other thing was that he also mentioned something at the end of it. He says that all those aims were only what?
Dreams.
We're only dreams. So that means that it's something that is being fantasized or being imagined. And then he says that the aims were also very far-fetched because they say that they were beyond God. That means even God cannot make it work. How can he make it work? Understand the situation so far? Felice? Okay?
Yeah.
So this is what I mean by why did the league fail? Okay, thanks, Felice. You can mute yourself again. Okay, so again, all these evidence are clearly an indication of the failure of the league. So, is there something wrong with the aim? Okay, in the previous lesson, when I asked you all to look at the covenant, I asked you all to highlight certain challenges. And I shared with you there were certain challenges, right? And some of the challenges are going to contribute to the reason why the league is going to be a failure. Okay, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to talk about one of the factors of the weaknesses, and then I'm going to ask you to look at the rest of the cartoon, and I want you to work on it. And the next lesson, we will discuss it together in our live lesson. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So the idea that I mentioned to you is that it's a matter of the level, the extent of hope. B and A is very, very interesting. B is about hope. C A is about hope. B, which is this one that you're seeing now, it is about false hope. So one is really thinking too highly about the LON. Okay, so that is why these two sources are very, very different. And you will notice that they are very, very contradicting views about the LON. Okay, so we're going to start off with the first one. Okay, now we're going to focus on the League of Nations. Okay, I'm going to show you this picture here. You do not have this on your worksheet, but I just wanted to show you. Okay, can you tell me from this picture over here, what is the leak of what is your impression of the LON? Okay, I want you to look at this and anyone just identify yourself and then you can throw answers at me. I know some of you are dying to speak. I've been here Lionel for a while. Lionel, why don't you tell me? Lionel,
let me
what do you
see.
think this picture is telling you about?
Like the LON is a failure and it's like not
The
working
failure?
out.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not working out, right? Okay, so does it looks very okay? So from this picture, the LN is not working. It's not working out. It seems to be a failure. How do you know that it is a failure? Kaidong, what do you think? Kaidong? Kaitong? How do you know that the leg is a failure? Sorry.
There are weapons thrown on the LON.
Okay, so when people start throwing things at the LN, what does it also tell you about the LN? Do you throw things at people? What can you imagine the scene when this person is walking along and there are things being thrown at him? What do you think is what does this show you about the LN?
People don't like it.
People don't like it, good. So it's not very popular, it's not well liked, okay. And the other thing about the LON is that what do you notice about him? Was he suffering throughout the whole thing? Were he actually getting any form of support? Sarah, what do you think? Sarah, what do you think?
Wait, what was the question?
The question is, Sarah, we look at this picture, okay, you saw the LON, right? You notice that the LON, right? But what is not very respected, okay? But what is also, why is it allowing things to be thrown at him? What other qualities do you see about the LON?
The LON is very weak.
Okay, very weak, very weak. Okay, it's also very defenseless, right? Can he block
Yes.
all those things that is coming at him? He can't. He can't because he doesn't have anything to block him. So that pretty much, okay, thanks, Sarah. So that pretty much tells you a little bit about what was happening in terms of the LON. The LON itself doesn't have a lot of support and it's actually not very, very popular among the people because all of them are criticizing. If you look at all these things, it says here, yours truly, welcome, rest in peace. Everybody is not giving the LON any chance and they are just throwing things at them. So it seems like the LON, which started off as something that is very, very positive, was actually not working very, very well. So what is it that happened? Okay, now there are four main reasons why the LON was actually weak. And the four reasons are lack of credibility and authority, limited membership, post-war attitude towards the league, and their difficulty to resolve dispute. So these are the four main ideas which we are going to use some of the sources to try to understand a little bit about what actually happened. Okay, so what you see in the next few pages of your worksheet is that you notice that Mr. Ng have given you a couple of political cartoons for you to play with. The reason why I'm giving you all these political cartoons is that the political cartoon pretty much helps you to understand a little bit about the LON. And a clue is all those cartoons will have something to do to address either one or some of the weaknesses that is found on this page that you see over here. Okay, so I repeat myself again. When you go and analyze all those cartoons, it will tell you something a little bit more about the weaknesses of the LON. the cartoon may only represent one, it may represent a couple. Okay, so that will pretty much give you an idea what the League of Nations is all about. Okay, let's start off with the first one. Let's go through the first one together, okay, as a class. Okay, the rest of the other information, I already sent you the PowerPoint slide. We'll go through that very quickly, but you want to jot them into your notes, by all means do so. But what I want to emphasize today and the next lesson is to focus more on the analysis of the sources. Okay, so first thing first, the League of Nations. What was wrong about the League of Nations was that there was a lack of credibility and authority. If you remember during the previous lesson, when I showed you a photograph of the formation of the LON, you will notice that the LON has approximately about 30 members. Present day, the world has almost about 170 over countries. So there's only 30 countries that's represented in the LON. So obviously, it is not going to represent the world. So if you have 30 countries to represent the world, obviously, it's not going to get the respect that it needed. So that's one thing. The second thing was that the League of Nations was very closely associated to this idea of the Paris Peace Conference and the Treaty of Versailles. So many of the countries who are either in the LON or those who are not in the LON sees the LON as part of the Paris Peace Conference. And for those of them who are in the LON, they are part of what we call the Winners Club. I repeat again, those who are part of the LON are people who see themselves, or countries that see themselves as part of the Winners Club. They are those countries that have won the LON. Therefore, they have won the World War I. Therefore, they are in the LON. And there are some countries who are not invited, or they are not involved in the Paris Peace Conference, or they lost in the World War, are not invited to come in and join the LON. So therefore, it was a very, very unpopular position. You cannot have a world organization that practices favoritism. All countries need to be represented. And therefore, a lot of countries, because of the lack of this authority and credibility, decided not to take it very seriously. So therefore, you have situations like what you see in the previous slide, the previous cartoon, when people are literally throwing things at the LON because the LON cannot command the respect of the people. Okay, now, so the LON were also very, very weak in terms of their peacekeeping measures. Now, if you remember from the aim or the covenant that we have done in the previous lesson, you will notice that the League of Nations believe in using some form of peacekeeping measures to get countries to come together to discuss about matters. But however, these peacekeeping measures, like for example, practicing sanction, that means basically to criticize, to scold the country, or to so-called to ban the selling of items or goods to the offending country, are actually ineffective because aggressive countries continue to pursue their expansionist policy. After the Second World War, there are countries who insist on using violence to solve their problem. And the League of Nations way of criticizing the actions of these aggressive countries, getting them to the so-called the discussion table, the conference table to discuss, to try to resolve the problem in peace, are actually not working because they lack the authority and the credibility. So it's actually a so-called a vicious cycle. Because they have no credibility and authority, they cannot get aggressive country to stop what they are doing. And because they cannot stop what the aggressive countries are doing, they lost further respect and credibility and their authority as the LON. Okay, so I hope that you understand this part on this. Okay, I'm going to finish up with the last slide. Okay, this is a very interesting cartoon. Okay, and I want you to look at this cartoon and I want you to pick out what are the things that you see in this cartoon. Okay, Liu Chen? Can you tell me what you see in the cartoon? Don't do any analysis first. Tell me what you see in the cartoon. Anything that you can see from the cartoon.
A bridge.
Okay, you saw a bridge. Good. Okay, what is this bridge made of?
Countries like
Okay, good. What do you notice about the bridge?
the connection between France and England is
Missing, right?
very
There's a big hole, right? So do you think the bridge can stand?
no, it's
You
like
learn your
very
physics, right? In physics like that, can it stand? Can the
no.
bridge stand? The bridge cannot stand. Okay, so the bridge cannot stand. Okay, thank you. Okay, another person. I've not heard from who. Okay. Mingjun, what do you think? Mingjun, are you there? Unmute yourself.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, Mingjun, tell me, what do you notice from this cartoon? What other things do you notice other than what Liu Chen mentioned? What other things do you notice?
Belgium and France does not work well with England and Italy.
Okay. What gives you the impression that they don't work well?
There is a gap between the both
Okay.
sides.
Okay. There's a gap, right? Okay.
Yes.
Tell me who is okay. So that could be a possibility. Yeah. So the countries are not working very, very well. So there is a missing piece, right? Correct. There's a missing piece that what Liu Chen mentioned. Where's the missing piece?
USA.
Where is USA?
On the side of the bridge.
On the side, right? It's on the side of the bridge. So is it in the bridge?
No.
Okay, so it's not in the bridge. Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's not in the bridge. Zachary, I didn't see you in the previous lesson, so I must get you to answer a question. Zachary, come.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay, what other things do you notice in this cartoon?
nothing
What other
else.
things? Nothing else. Okay, let me ask you to look at something else. Sorry, let me ask you to look at something else. Okay. Can you see my arrow pointing? What is written over here?
The League of Nations.
Okay, the League of Nations. So this bridge is actually a representation of what? This bridge is actually
The
what
member
bridge? The members of the LN. Very good. Okay, tell me, who was the one who designed this bridge?
USA.
Okay, is USA in the bridge?
No.
USA is not in the bridge. And like what just now Mingjun mentioned, USA is on this side of the bridge, right? It's on this side of the bridge. Correct? It's on this side of the bridge. Okay? It's hiding here as a keystone. It's mentioned over here, it's a keystone, and it's on this side of the bridge. And who is this fella that is lying down there, obviously, and what is he doing? What is he doing? He is what? What is he doing?
Sitting down.
He's sitting down. What other than sitting down, what do you think he's doing? Is he
Smoking.
doing anything? He's smoking, he's not doing anything. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Okay, now, class, pay attention over here. There's something very, very interesting. In this cartoon, they actually tells you one problem of the LON. And it's very, very obvious that the bridge itself or the LN is weak or is unstable because there was one stone missing. The stone is actually USA. USA need to be the one to pull everything together. Like what just now Mingjun mentioned, maybe Belgium and France cannot work very well with England, Italy. The reason is because the most important person, the one who designed the bridge, was not there at all. You realize that the one that designed the bridge is not there at all. He is sitting by the side, relaxing at one corner, okay, and the keystone is missing. So that actually tells you one problem of the league, okay, and this is going to be the biggest irony, okay. The biggest irony is that first of all, the League of Nations, okay, there are actually many members, many powers who are not members, and one of them is actually USA. USA is not a member of the League of Nations. Okay, so that's one problem. They don't have USA. They also don't have countries like Germany and USSR. Okay, so big countries are not there, not just the small countries, some big countries are not there. And they cannot control the people coming in or going out of the LON. So that is a problem with the membership. They cannot get people to come, they cannot control the people who are coming or leaving the LON. Okay, so for example, okay, let's move on. Okay, so why is it that the LON do not want to get, why is it that the US did not want to get itself involved? This cartoon is actually published by the American. Okay, so again, I want you to use what we have done so far, and I want you to understand why is it that the Americans choose not to join the LON. Okay, why is it that the Americans choose not to join the LON? Why is it that the Americans' opinion towards the LON is so negative? President Wilson was the one who fought very, very hard to get USA to join the LON. He believed that this peacekeeping organization would help the world. But the irony was that even though he has been pushing so hard for it, he cannot get his own US Senate, or what we call the US Parliament, to vote positively to join the LON. In fact, after the whole World War I, USA went into a policy of isolation. It chose not to, I repeat, it chose not to interfere with the affairs that's happening in the world. So it keeps themselves away from the affairs. And that was why, okay, their action resulted to so-called aggressive powers like Japan, aggressive powers like Italy and Germany, who later tried to take over the world. So now you can see the total change in the way the Americans deal with things. Okay, so I'm sidetracking here now. The Americans are now very, very active in doing things around the world. The reason was because when they choose not to do anything during that period in the 1920s, because they were practicing the policy of isolation, the world itself went into a period of aggressive expansionism, which we're going to talk about in the next chapter when we talk about Hitler. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for today. Okay, I'm going to stop here for today. Okay, and this is what I want you to do. Okay, this is what I want you to do. Okay, we're coming to the end of the last 5 minutes. This is what we want you to do. Now, I want you to use the same idea. Okay, I want you to use the same idea now to look at all the sources that was given to you. Okay, remember the 4 different weaknesses of the LON. I want you to look at the sources and try to understand, pick up information, content from the sources to try to understand what exactly does that source applies to which weaknesses, and then try to pick up evidence from the sources. In the next lesson, I'm going to go through the sources very quickly, and we're going to wrap up this part on the weaknesses of the LON. Okay, so I hope that today's lesson we focus a little bit on the skill set, a little bit on SBQ skills, a little bit of understanding perspective, and also to see the different viewpoints of the LON, and also to start off the context of the problem, one of the weakness of the LON, which is on the issue of the lack of authority. Okay, is something that will help you to understand a little bit more about the weaknesses. In the next lesson, we'll carry on with the other 2, and we'll look at all the sources in detail. Okay? So far, I hope everything is okay. If not, you can put up the information, you can ask questions on the Google Classroom, or you can put it on the parking lot, and I will address the issue in the next lesson, Zoom lesson that we have on Thursday. I will be sending you the details on WhatsApp. Okay, there are some of you, like people like Glendon, Webe. I don't know, is it because you're late, because you have woke up late, or you have certain other issue, but please be on time in the next lesson. Because if not, lesson time is going to be, the amount of time will be heavily compromised. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Okay, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, 3-4, have a good lesson, go and focus on the note, and then in the next lesson, we'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the weaknesses. Okay, so that's all for today. Okay,